Alright, so let's take a look at what's left of my Galapagos Island tomato. And this plant is pretty much petering out. We're roughly mid-August right now, and it's not doing that good. We had really heavy heat. Then we got hit with a massive deluge of rain. Now we're back into a dry, hot heat again, and it's going back and forth, and so it's really taking a toll on the plants. But so far so good. It's not necessarily dying. The blight is really trying to kill it. That rain has really brought the blight in something hard. We're getting blight, septoria, we're getting late blight, we're getting early blight, we're getting them all. So it's really, the rain really brought it all out. But nevertheless, I have enough tomatoes here where I can do some reviews and get some seeds. And hopefully, you know, I can get a bunch more tomatoes off of this by the end of the year. Hopefully it lives. You can see like some of the plant is gone all the way up. It's pretty long over here, so maybe that part will live. As far as me trying to cut the plant down and try to get a second harvest out of it, probably not worth it. I mean, we're mid-August already. You really need like 2 months in front of you at a minimum to really get that, to get a good effect by pruning them, and this is really too late in the season, so I'm not really going to fool around with that. I tried rooting some of the other suckers and stuff. I'm not having a whole lot of luck with that. Had some luck with some of them, but most of the others are just not rooting, and so I'm not going to waste my time with it. It's already too late in the year. Up here where I live, you need to be, you know, we need to be done gardening by roughly mid-October. So I only got about a month and a half left, maybe 2 months at best, and that's the end of the growing season for me. I mean, I can do some of my winter crops, but not to go off on a tangent on all this stuff. I'm just saying why I'm not going to do anything with the Galapagos Island tomato. Actually, most of my tomatoes, a lot of them are petering out now, and it is what it is. So anyway, let me show you what the leaf is. The leaf looks kind of like, I'll give you a good leaf. Regular leaf like that. This is a Solanum Galapagosian. This is not a Solanum Lycopersicon. So make sure we're clear on it. This tomato is originally from the Galapagos Islands, and it's very unique as far as the flavor of the tomato, and the tomato plant itself has a very unique smell to it. It doesn't smell like regular tomatoes. It has a very fruity type of a smell. There's not too many tomatoes that have that odor, but this is one of them that does. And the other one I have is a Cosmic Eclipse, which is probably crossed over into that tomato somehow. They bridged the smell of this tomato into there, but it has a very fragrant smell, and it's very different from really the regular tomato. It doesn't smell like a regular tomato plant. So if you've never grown this before, grow it just for the smell sensation of the plant, just so you can get an idea what I'm talking about. Anyway, the tomato puts out generally this kind of a bract like this, and you're going to get anywhere between 6 to 8 tomatoes per bract. Average is about 6. And the shape of the tomatoes kind of change a little bit. Now, I do get tomatoes on here that sometimes look like this. They're kind of flattened. And then, of course, I get ones that look like cherry tomatoes. But I have been getting some of these. Now, you might be saying, oh, well, they crossed over. Those are you know, hybrids or whatever. No, these actually came out of the package. I specifically grew these ones out of the package. I got another set of Galapagos Island tomatoes growing in the greenhouse that were from seed that I grew from the previous year, and those are doing the same thing. So sometimes the tomato type changes a little, I would imagine. I don't really know, but I just know that I get some tomatoes that come off of there that are a little bit bigger than cherry tomatoes. They kind of get a little larger. I mean, these aren't like cherry tomatoes. These are like mini cherry tomatoes. And then you get to these type here where they're actually like cherry-sized tomatoes. So they do change in shape. Some of them get a little flattened, it looks like. I don't know. I really don't know. But the majority of them that come off of here generally look like this. They're nice little, I wouldn't call them mini cherry tomatoes, but they're definitely between a mini or a currant tomato and a cherry. So they're a little bigger than that, but they're kind of small. They're nice. They actually they're a nice snacking tomato. I like them a lot. I like eating these things a lot. I just wish they grew better. They generally don't grow that good where I live, but I do grow them. I try to grow them like every year, every other year, or something like that. So I do try to work on these tomatoes. But the fragrance that comes off of these tomatoes are absolutely incredible. It's a very flowery, fruity kind of a fragrance. It doesn't smell like a regular tomato plant. I don't know any other way to put it. It's a very fruity type of a smell. So it's very different than the standard Lycopersicon type of odor. So let me pick these tomatoes off and we'll walk you over to the bench and then we will do a taste test. Alright, so we're at the tomato review part of the video. And here we are, doing the tomato review on the Galapagos Island Tomato. So what do I know about this tomato? Well, the only thing that I know about it is that it's from the Galapagos Islands. It's a Solanum Galapagosian or Galapagosis tomato. I'll put the right botanical name inside the description. And it's an indeterminate tomato. And that's really all that's it. I mean, I don't know too much of the history about it. Obviously, I think it was picked up by a tomato enthusiast and it was brought back that way, but I don't have all the details. I will leave details in the description. I'll see what I can find in Wiki and put it down in the description. But anyway, this is what it looks like. Okay, that's that. And this is a cross section of it. I have to use two hands to get this piece of garbage to focus. And that's what it looks like on the inside. And now, like I had mentioned before in the earlier part of the video, that the plant has a very unique fragrance to it. It doesn't smell like your typical tomato plant. It's a very fruity smelling plant. And that smell and aroma kind of transcribes itself into the tomato itself. So these tomatoes taste quite different than your standard cherry tomato. So it's in a world of its own. If you've never grown a Galapagos Island tomato, you have to grow it, because if you're a tomato lover, you have to grow it and try it for yourself, because it's not something you're going to be able to go to a store and buy. I don't even think you can buy these fresh on like a fresh fruit website or anything like that. So let's do a bricks on it first. Let's go right to the bricks and get a bricks test on this. And I always try to just get the juice, but the seeds want to come right out of this thing. I just need enough to cover the lens, which I think I just did. And we're pushing roughly, we're about a 7 on the bricks. So that's a good sign. That means that the sweetness has really developed in it. Alright, so Galapagos Island Tomato going in. Like I said, the tomato has a very unique flavor to it, but it still tastes like a tomato nonetheless. There's some kind of a floral undertone to it that kind of carries along with this tomato. It's very different from most of the other tomatoes. Now, that particular tomato I just ate was kind of on the tangy side, but then again, it wasn't, I don't think it was fully ripe. I pretty much picked these tomatoes off because I want to get most of the tomatoes off the plant so it starts putting out more tomatoes and gives me a second yield. So I got to get these tomatoes off. So even if they're not fully ripened, I'm kind of pulling them anyway. Seeds are ripe enough in them, but with tomatoes, it's always best to let them sit on the vine all the way to their full ripeness, as far as you can get them, like they're almost starting to get squishy, because that's when all the starches convert over to sugars and you're going to get the best sweetness out of that tomato. So picking them early is generally not a good idea. It's best to leave the tomato on the plant so it ripens on the plant. It's a shame I have to go through all of this just so I can get this piece of garbage to focus, but alright, let's give it another try. Very nice flavor. The sweetness is pretty nice as far as The sweetness on it, I would say it's probably like a 30 on the sweetness. Tangy was probably 35, so it was a little higher tangy than the sweetness. Not a perfect balance, but again, it has that strange Galapagos Island aroma to it. So as you're eating it, if this part on the top is still on there, you're kind of getting that floral smell from the plant, and then when you eat it, it's kind of like hitting your senses two different ways. But this is a fun tomato to grow. You really gotta dial in the conditions right for this tomato to absolutely flourish. If you have the room in your yard for a very large garden and you're gonna grow the Galapagos Island tomato, I would recommend like a 10 by 10 raised bed filled with really good soil. Make sure it's well incorporated into the lower subsoil below, the dirt below, so the roots can really grow out. And just let the plant grow wild. That's the best way to grow this particularly. Growing it upright is really not in the plant's best benefit. Growing any tomato plant upright is not in any tomato plant's best interest. It doesn't work best to grow them upright. Though we do that as gardeners, it's better to let your plant just grow wild along the ground. If you get some parts of the plant that are getting larger tomatoes, stake up each one of those shoots and protect the tomato. But growing it upright by itself, if tomato plants are vines, they're meant to grow along the ground and put out multiple root systems at its node, and that way the tomato plant can really grow to its fullest potential. Growing them upright is really not the best way to do your tomato plants. Unfortunately, I don't have the room to grow tomato plants that way, so I have to grow them in an upright position. But I do believe this plant will do phenomenally better if you just grew it outside and let it grow along the ground and just let it grow wild. This plant would do really, really good, providing it doesn't get wiped out by the blight like most tomato plants do every year. That's it. That's just a quick review on the Galapagos Island tomato. If you like this video, like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you on the next one.